So the maze, yeah, we can talk about the maze. So this is Plumura. Uh, she's a pixie. And it's not a huge maze, but it is very confined. By which I mean it's the the corridors are not big. Um, and it's pretty windy. It You can kind of, if you run it enough, you'll kind of get an idea of how to move around it. It's not it's not a maze that's challenging in the sense that to move around. It's just really easy to get lost because of how fast you can turn and how constricting the corridors are and nondescript they are. There are some wood woads at certain points to slow you down from moving. You have to beat those up, which is really a bummer as someone who's typically been running not high DPS characters in this raid. You run into that while you're kind of looking around to find the boss who's hiding in the maze at like 7 or 8 predetermined locations, I think. So you're gonna get run into the wood woads that slow you down, and you have to beat those up to get past them, and then they'll respawn after time. There are a couple of pixies hanging out, just trash pixies, but not too many. Really, it's about getting through the maze and finding the boss. There's sort of two ways you can go about this. Most groups that I've been in have a tendency to do this as a group and try to stick together. My experience is that usually lasts for all of 30 seconds, and then it breaks down, and people are going all over the place anyways. The other thing you can do is just split up right from the get-go and kind of try to find her. It's a little... That's not really a super effective strategy. Look, this is a mess, moving around the maze. At least in my experience so far, people are not super great about figuring out how to communicate where the boss is. I've had people say, "Oh, she's in the west," and what they really mean is she's in the northwest corner, or the southwest corner, right? So there's a little bit of mileage can vary there. You're trying to do it kind of quickly, and people get separated very easily. It's a maze. Trying to keep people.
And the map sucks.
Yeah, it's a terrible map in here. It's really easy to kind of get spread out, and there's going to be someone at the front of the line, even if you're in the group running towards wherever. They're going to get to an endpoint and turn around and run back the other direction. People are not going to recognize that. Yeah, it gets a little nuts. It can be helpful if you're going to try to stick with the part as a group, or maybe like do a couple sub. Like, I kind of recommend, like, hey, follow this person, and that can be helpful if you make that person a healer who knows kind of how to navigate the maze. That can be helpful because you'll be in range of healing for most of the time. But it's a mess, and I don't know how better to describe the moving around than that. The whole time that this is going on, the boss will stack a cold dot on folks. On lower difficulties, it's not too bad, but it does stack up quickly and pretty high. I'm not actually sure how high it goes up. At least 20. I think I've heard 25.
It goes higher than that.
Yeah.
It goes up to 50.
50? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So there is a time crunch here, right? Like, you need to go and find the boss. Because it doesn't matter where you are in the maze, you're going to get a cold dot stacking, and it's going to start killing people. Which is why we kind of recommend generally try to stick together so you can get some healing if you're running into problems there. Again, this is where your cold absorption is really going to come into play. It's not so much in other parts. I guess I could say like the second boss, acid absorption, would probably help because I think most of her damage is acid. But the cold absorption is really, if you're going to bring an element, this is the one you're going to want to bring is cold absorption into this raid. The trick to the cold dot is once you find the pixie, you want to engage with her and draw her aggro, but not DPS her. She teleports, I believe, 4 times.
Yes, it's 4.
Yeah, it's about every 25%. So the first 3 times you find her, you don't want her to teleport until everyone's cold dot is clear. It doesn't matter where they are in the maze, eventually the cold dot will tick down, Uh, Everyone does not get a cold dot at the same rate. I don't understand why that is true. But some people stop getting a cold dot and it happens on different time frames or something. The important part here is don't go crazy DPSing her. Just get her aggro until everyone's cold dot is gone. Then teleport her so that everyone starts the new iteration at 0 stacks. If you just find her and wail on her and move her, your cold dots won't go away and they'll just keep stacking. And that's what's going to tend to kill people in here, is that cold dot ramping up. Anything you want to add?
No, I agree. I mean, you summed it up pretty well.
It's a mess.
Um, the Woodwoads, the only thing I'd add is they're blocking
Right.
your path, and they do respawn. So just because you kill one and you move past does not mean that, oh, well, anyone can move in and out of that area. No, they will respawn, and people can get stuck pretty easy.
Yeah. I haven't tried any of the like tumble through things. Have you tried anything, the stuff that lets you move through mobs?
No, you can at times jump over them,
Yeah.
but it's not reliable.
Yeah. Um, so if you're looking for, maybe you might be able to use something that lets you move through mobs to move through them. I mean, you're still gonna have to deal with them on the way back or something like that. The good news is so once you teleport the boss 3 times, the 4th time you find her, just nail her, wail on her as soon as you find her. That last one, the last 25%, might even be a little less than that. Once the boss is dead, D doors pop up. No one control you. You're not allowed to cast D door in here, so these are all safe D doors to take and send you back to the main room, so you don't have to navigate the maze to get out. So that's nice. Do you want to talk about Grix?
Yeah, relatively simple um, compared to the maze, but so Grix is just a hunk of HP, and
He's a red cap.
yeah, he's a red cap, so he does actually do quite a bit of melee damage. But all throughout, you're going to walk into the side room. There's going to be lots of traps. I would not say myself that the traps do just a lot of damage, but you can disable them. I do not think that disables all the traps, but it does disable some. So while you're beating on him, he's going to run throughout the room at times and activate some of these traps. Again, they don't do just a whole lot of damage, so I wouldn't say that you need to, be scared about where you look or where you stand rather. But there's also going to be some harpies that spawn. The thing about these harpies, if they're not dealt with, they get a buff. I believe the buff gives them like 50 melee and ranged power each stack that they have. So it doesn't take but a few seconds before these harpies can start picking off members of your party. So they need to be CC'd or insta-killed or just burst
Killed.
them down. Yeah. But yeah, so other than that, I mean, he's running around activating traps and trying to kill you in between. And there's not much to say other than that. He does have quite a bit of HP and does quite a bit of damage with melee.
Tank is helpful for him.
Yeah, tank is
Pomera,
helpful.
tank not needed. Grix, tank wanted. Trapper, I think wanted. I don't think you're right. Like it doesn't tend to do a lot of damage. Once you disable the traps, him activating them does less. I think they don't do as much to you, so they're not that big a deal. But if you just ignore them, like you do have a potential to lose a couple party members here. Depending on even on normal, depending on who you're bringing and stuff like that. So, um, it's good to bring a trapper and deal with a trap. I think there's 6 boxes. Um, most groups I've been in have kind of opted to, hey, let's not go crazy here. Just give the trapper, 20 seconds to go do all the traps, and then go to town. That's fine. I haven't noticed that to be super necessary for most of the groups that I'm in on normal, or even hard. But I tend to run with, I don't tend to pug a lot of raids these days. So mileage may vary there. But I do recommend a trapper, and I do like that they have something for a trapper to do in the raid. I think that's a nice. I always like that as an incorporation. Um, so, but it's not.
There's,
It's not a point where you have to have a trapper. I think.
I
Um,
mean, yeah, I
but
mean, if you're an experienced group, um, I've completed it on R1 without doing the traps,
yeah,
but um, most groups I've been in have trappers, so that's not
yeah.
even really a concern. There is something to note that whichever optional you do first, the other one receives a buff, and you can actually see it in their examination bar. I don't know what this buff does, but they get it.
Yeah, have we figured out which one we like doing first?
I typically do the maze first, just because Grix is a beatdown.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know what it does.
The maze one is kind of more annoying to deal with, and so buffing Promura is kind of makes it sound worse. But if it doesn't actually affect the dot that she's doing, I don't know that it really matters that much.
Right. I don't know. Maybe running it more, I'll be able to say, hey, he's squishier or does less
Mm-hmm.
damage. I don't know.
We don't have an advice on that. Pick your poison.
Yep.
Or one you want to do first. If your group is amazing at doing the maze, do Grix first. I don't know. If you don't have any trappers and you're great at the maze, do Grix first. Yeah. I don't think it matters a whole lot in the grand scheme of things, but